But let's focus back on what we were supposed to really be focusing on, is the money. These guys from Europe came to America to say that before Ukraine cedes any land to Russia, they have to have security guarantees. This is going to cost money. My thesis has been is that these guys see this, the leaders of Europe, Starmer, Macron, and co., see this as a way of becoming very rich at the expense of their own country. So here it is. And Zelensky. Zelensky has promised to buy $90 billion of arms from the U.S. Zelensky has saying that he's going to take $90 billion of Ukraine's money to buy weapons from the U.S. to defend against Russia. Do you see? This means that the U.S. now has shaken down Ukraine for $90 billion. Will you agree?
Yes.
$90 billion.
Western Europe, they've taken down. Ukraine doesn't have that money.
First of all, the U.S. told him to go to war with Russia. They said, we got your back. Now that they're losing, they're saying, okay, now you have to give all of the Donbass to Russia, and now you have to give us $90 billion for weapons. Do you see how this is a shakedown? $90 billion is a lot of money. Now, multiple European countries, as part of a coalition of the willing, led by the United States and France, have been exploring options to help fund security guarantees for Ukraine. Potential sources of funding. Here's the number one source, Ukraine itself. Ukraine has indicated a willingness to contribute financially to its security by offering to purchase a significant amount of U.S. weapons, estimated at $90 billion, if a peace agreement with Russia is reached. So that means that now that we've broken the peace agreement, give us $90 billion, then we'll give you some weapons. They'll probably give them secondhand weapons. The second funder, the European Union, the EU is already providing significant financial support to Ukraine, including aid for recovery and reconstruction efforts. This is money that's coming out of Europeans' pockets. Third, European allies and Canada. These countries have significantly contributed to security assistance pledges through NATO, providing over 50 billion euro in 2024 and an additional 35 billion in 2025. They've spent 85 billion to try to help NATO defend Ukraine. Where's that money going? Because it's not going to the battlefield. Now, the last person, United States. Now, check this out, Kunle. While President Trump has emphasized Europe taking the lead, the U.S. has indicated a willingness to coordinate and help out with the European efforts. The U.S. has historically provided significant security and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Not $1. You don't see any money coming from them. They will support you. Do you see what I'm saying? This is the deconstruction of Europe's economy. Over billions of dollars, 90 billion from Ukraine, billions from EU, and then 85 billion from Canada and these countries. Do you see what's going on? This is mafia stuff.
Yeah.
And the war was fronted by the U.S. The U.S. said they would support Ukraine. Now they're saying we won't support you, but you have to buy 90 billion from us and we'll broker the deal. What are your thoughts on this before we head out?
Yeah, even that $90 billion as the shakedown on Ukraine, ultimately, I don't think Ukraine has that money. I think that money is going to come from Western Europe in form of taxation.
Yeah, I think it's going to come through banking. They'll give loans and grants. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it's going to be loans and grants. But at the end of the day, since Europe are the ones that are saying they don't want Putin to do a Hitler on them, they're the ones that are going to keep shouting to keep fighting and keep stopping them. They're going to have to put their hands in their pockets and come up with much of that 90 billion that Ukraine agreed to borrow. Europe is going to pay for that. Ukraine hasn't got that money. So that's going to come in the form of the Western European taxpayer. And as you know, the political system in the West is beginning to change. And when that changes and the people's will changes, that money may not materialize. I'm beginning to wonder whether that's even going to be a realistic plan in the long term. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think Western Europe ultimately.
There's going to be a lot of bank loans. Europe's going to go into debt. They're going to just take loans from their central banks to do this. And those loan money is just going to go to prop up the life of Macron and his boyfriend, who they call his wife. And that's it. So they can have more cars. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's gonna affect the lower middle working classes of Western Europe severely because the world is becoming more oligarchy and less socialist. You know, immediately after the war, there was a lot of socialism. That's why you could buy a house as a postman. You can't do that now. It's becoming more unequal. And with what's going on now, with these last things that are going to happen, once these taxes get out of control for the Western European people, they're not going to support any more arming, any more war.
Or there'll be inflation. What will happen is that they'll keep taking loans and they'll become like America, which has a $34 trillion deficit. So what they'll do is they'll try to keep the living standards up in Europe because they don't want to have uprising. So what they'll do is they'll keep taking loans and loans and loans. But at some point, you have to pay the piper. You get my point?
Yes, I also see a general revolution, the kind of revolution that happened in the 60s. Sort of wind of change is going to happen amongst all these Western countries. I think they're going to expel all this Zionism from their politics. It doesn't mean that they're going to have a brave new world of good people be replaced by some other form of mischief, I'm sure. But ultimately, at least let them be the ones in charge of it.
This is why there needs to be a socialist movement in the world. What I mean by a socialist movement, not overthrowing government, but there needs to be proper information given to citizens so they can know what's at stake. Citizens need to know that what's at stake right now is that their governments are leasing, just like the U.S. did. They're bleeding their countries with weapons manufacturing and manufacturing these wars so that a few people can make money at the expense of the youth. All of the youth need to know this. This is one of the first reasons why they'll start banning channels like ours. I'm serious. I'm not trying to push our channel. But once you start banning information that shows people what's really going on and helps them revolt, that's how you keep countries under control. You understand what I'm saying? So the idea is that
mainstream media is more for the elderly who are dying out, and more people who are young of today get more and more of their information and facts from social media because it's unhinged.
But here's the problem.
It's harder to hide the truth in social media than it is mainstream.
Here's the problem. So, like, social media is showing us that what's happening in Palestine, but people keep saying, "Oh, it's in response to October 7th." So the deeper truths aren't being meant. So people are like, "Oh, it's terrible what Israel's doing to Hamas. I mean, it's doing to Israel, but we're on their side. But Hamas should never have done this." There's no people on social media saying that actually Hamas is not a terrorist organization. It's just a political organization. So what I'm saying is that even on social media, it's not getting deeper to the real critical truths. Like they say, okay, it's still considered that Russia's evil and Ukraine's bad, and at least was giving money to Ukraine. But what's really happening is that the U.S. fomented this whole war, starting with Obama back in 2014, overthrowing the government. So we're not getting to the deeper truth. But the ultimate thing that we need to see on social media is people need to be saying the truth. Stop spending money on all of these. Halt all of these wars right now. Stop sending money to Israel. Stop sending money to help Ukraine. Once you do that, everything will come in place. If the Ukraine doesn't have any more money, that war will end. Now, I'm going to be saying that we have to be realistic. We don't want Russia to take all of Ukraine. So all we ask is that Russia keeps the Donbass and end it at that. We can even say that that's injustice, but we don't want this to continue because if you look at the analytics, Ukraine is not going to win that war. And if they continue, they'll lose all of their country. Then that'll be a big security risk for Europe if Russia owns all of Ukraine. So let's end it now with the Donbass. Maybe they want their security agreements to get a lot of money, which I think is a bunch of bullshit. But and I don't even know if Putin will agree, because once Putin agrees and he says, okay, we've come to peace, maybe 5 or 6 years later, they will rebuild Ukraine again and tell them to attack Russia. That's what they did with, what's her name? Who was the president of Germany?
Well, that lady is not the same lady now. Who is it now? Oh, I forgot the name.
Before, the German president from before.
That woman.
Hold up, Germany's last president.
The lady.
Anyway, so what she did was they signed the Minsk agreements and said, okay, this is the end of it, no more. And then 5 or 6 years later, they start funding Ukraine again. And she laughed and said, we made a fool of Russia because they signed an agreement. So what I'm saying is that Russia may not really be willing to sign an agreement now because they know that people always go against the agreements. You see what I'm saying, Kule? Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's ironic because Russia would say
Merkel.
That's Angela Merkel. Yeah. It's ironic because Russia would say the same thing about them, that Western Europe doesn't keep to its own agreements, because their own agreements after the fall of the Cold War in 1990, they agreed not to turn half the countries into NATO that they did under the president.
They said NATO will not move one more degree. It won't expand one more degree, and they did.
Precisely, and they did.
So that's what I'm saying. Putin may not just, he may not even want to listen. He'll just take all of Ukraine because he knows that.
Well, I don't know.
The reason he'll do that is because
I'll put a caveat here. Putin isn't interested in taking any part of Ukraine that isn't Russian speaking. It's not worth the trouble. Even if you can conquer that area, they don't want to be part of Russia.
But here's my argument why he'll take it. He'll take it because he'll take it because as a preemptive to stop Europe using that side to now attack
buffer, as a military buffer. Yes, but I think that you'd have a constant problem internally of resistance from the Ukrainian people.
I don't think you'll do it. I don't think you'll do it.
I don't think they're interested in doing it. But if they do,
but my point being is that the more and more they continue to not honor their agreements, the more likely it is that Russia would just won't listen to them on these debates anymore. Not these debates, but on these negotiations. Because Russia believes that you can't negotiate with America because they're not trustworthy. So even if they don't take all of Ukraine, they won't really confer with America on their decisions. They'll just do what they want to do. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if they take more than what I would consider a buffer zone, which is maybe a 6-mile or 10-mile zone outside of the Russian-speaking areas that they've taken, if they encroach beyond that, I would have to reassess the entire strategy and intentions of Russia and Putin, because I believe that they're being basically defensive. And the reason I say that is because as much as they talk about how much they are afraid of Russia, Russia's weapons and munitions and ability to wage war is not on a par with America and NATO. They need...
No, Russia's army is defensive. It's not an offensive army force,
Yeah, they don't have the offensive ability to cause as much all this carnage in Western Europe that Western Europe is fear-mongering about that they're going to do. Even their technology is behind when it comes to weaponry, except for maybe drones and missile technology.
No, but they also have hypersonic missiles,
Yes, hypersonic missiles, but when it comes to conventional weaponry, I think that the West still wins. Even the West still wins. They have the better technology. But as we know, technology of war is moving to another area where Iran and Russia are quite strong.
Oh, yeah, especially electronic warfare, jamming electronic signals and things like that, and drones.
Yes, drones, I mean, these are defensive weapons. You need boots on the ground in order to occupy other areas. All these weapons do is just blow stuff up in another country. If you don't put boots on the ground, not encroaching. I don't think Russia has an intention of encroaching. But if they do, I stand corrected. If they encroach more than 5 or 10 miles to create a buffer zone, I'll have to reassess everything I thought about.
We'll send our children to go fight them. Go and fight them. Let's go. Are you able to do Nigerian politics with Afolabi at 8? If you're not, don't worry about it.
Nigerian politics, I think so.
They're talking about the bandits. The bandits, 13 bandits killed 13 people praying in a mosque up north. As revenge, because those people attacked them. People attacked the bandits and stopped them from killing people. Then the bandits came and killed them. You don't have to do the show though if you don't want to. Yeah, maybe that'll just be.
Just let me know. I might be free.
All right, so we'll talk tomorrow. Okay.
All right, nice one. Good show.
Thanks. Okay.
All right.